What up, party people? Welcome back to my floor. I don't know about you, but today I am feeling positively fabulous. I guess that means that we should probably do something artistically fabulous too. Shouldn't we? Well, I'm about to spring it on you, so here it comes. Remember when I said that I bought too many art supplies last month? Well, one of the more indulgent purchases that I made was I finally bought a product that I've been coveting for months, and that is this giant set of Paul Rubens Metallic Watercolor paints. I'm actually pretty excited about sharing this with all of you. I'm excited to swatch them, and I'm really interested to see what I could possibly do with them in order to make art. I had originally intended on using a set like this to maybe accent some watercolor art pieces, you know, just a pop of some shiny color here and there, but I am a little bit curious as to whether or not I can actually create an entire art piece using only glitter and mica pigmented watercolor, because I think that's what these are. And, you know, I just have the heart of a corvid. Anything that is shiny or glittery or dual colored, it's gonna pull at my heartstrings. And frankly, I've been seeing these sort of like floating around for a little while, and I know that there are quite a lot of brands of different kinds of metallic watercolors to use, but this one had the widest color selection that I could see when I was sort of browsing around online. I'm sorry, but I have a very specific requirement that metallic purples need to be in my life at all times. It's the combination of all of the things that I love in one thing: glitter, sparkles, color shift, and purple. And there are a few specific colors in this set that I think are going to tickle my fancy. So, without further ado, let's swatch them up. Hello, and welcome to the voiceover. You're going to see me making some very dramatic hand gestures over this fabulous set of paints. The Paul Rubens set always comes in these pink tins that have a matching pink cleaning cloth, and of course the pigments themselves are very sparkly in this set, so I had to dramatize the presentation of them to all of you. You get a pamphlet that is unfortunately all in Chinese, which I couldn't really read the text of, and then a swatch card which has each of the colors that come in the set outlined, and they are organized from top to bottom and then from left to right. I began by taping down my swatch card on all sides, that way it wouldn't curl or warp while I swatched my colors. And then it was very important to me that I have a surface that is black so that I can see how the black responded to the metallic colors, just in case the glitter that is in them has a different appearance than the actual paint pigment. I used what I thought was a waterproof black ink, but I had to come back a couple of times with a wet paintbrush to test to see if the ink had fully dried. It's supposed to be completely waterproof on cellulose paper, but I don't know what kind of paper this is that was provided by Paul Rubens. So as you can see, I'm going to be making several attempts to see if the pigment in that ink is fully dried, because the last thing I wanted it to do was to interfere with the pigments that were in the watercolor set. I came back every 15 minutes or so until I finally had a brush stroke that came back merely wet with water and did not have any gray to it. And then it was time to swatch my colors. And this part's pretty self-explanatory. I just went along all the way down the rows and swatch the colors both on the white side and the black side of each row, noting the difference between them, doing my best to stay in order, but as you're going to see in a short moment, I failed a few times. And that part was pretty fun. I like swatching. Okay. I just finished my swatches and I peeled the tape off, and let me just give this puppy a tilt so that you can see how gorgeous some of these colors are, and why I'm certainly glad that I had the forethought to throw down those strips of black ink so that I could test to see what these colors look like on both white and black surfaces. It was absolutely worth it. Now, a couple of notes. First of all, I definitely had a few areas where I screwed up. I crammed too many of my swatches into a very small space up here, wasn't really paying attention to where the text was, This swatch is done twice as a result. And then I just drew an arrow from this one down to here so that I knew that this was supposed to be the flash blue color. And then there are so many reds in this palette, like it's kind of bananas, and I accidentally skipped one, so I had to sort of draw arrows marking out the ones that are supposed to go where in this little section here. That's my mistakes. I think that there are some errors that might be a little bit confusing to people, especially because these colors technically aren't what they seem until you put them to paper, especially when you put them on black paper, which I will definitely look into getting for real in the future, but for now this will do, and I'm glad that I used it on the swatch card because I can see them both side by side. There are some translations of the color names that I think aren't really appropriate. A couple that I think are maybe a little bit more nitpicky, like this one is called Bronze Satin. To me, that kind of reads more like a copper color, whereas this one up here that's called Flashing Copper Brown reads to me more like a bronze. That's just a personal nitpick. Whatever. There's this one here, which is supposed to be purple, and there's definitely purple tones in the sparkle, but that is definitely like a pinkish red in the pigment, so that's a little odd. Same with the network purple. I mean, I don't know, it just reads more of like a maroon or like just more of a pink than a purple. That's just something that I noticed. And then there are some on here that just make zero sense, like this color up here. Actually, I'm really fond of it because it's purple on paper, white paper, and then it's green on the black paper, which is so damn cool, but it's called copper, and that doesn't make any sense to me. That is not copper. I don't know why that's there. The purples are all really pretty. This one at the top too, that's like sort of a pinky magenta and then very blue on black paper. I almost thought it said grape myrtle, but it says crepe myrtle, and yeah, I don't know what that means, but that's just another one of those weird ones. And then there are some color names that are incredibly apt, like gold blue. Check it out, it's a blue, and it's definitely got some gold. Reads as kind of green on camera, but I promise you it looks super gold in person. And then there's another one down here. Where is it? Oh yeah, down at the bottom, gold green, that is like super gold on that black strip. So pretty. There are also two silver blacks. They say that they have different pigments in them, but they kind of look very similar to one another. They have the same name. The silver gray too is also very similar. And then here's another one that I thought translated well, brown green. It's kind of like a tan brown. Definitely reads as green on that black strip. And then another one up here, golden maroon. I don't think that that's maroon in the slightest, but it is so pretty, regardless of the name. That's just something that I noticed when I was swatching these colors, is that there was something lost in translation here, where whoever was in charge of transcribing the color names from Chinese into English didn't do the best job, or got a little bit confused, or I'm not even really sure. So hopefully that's something that people have taken note of already, and maybe they at Paul Rubens will perhaps tweak it in the future so that it makes a little bit more sense to people. I like to keep these in mind. In the past, I've thought about people who are colorblind, but honestly, even color-sighted people might be disadvantaged by this because you don't really know exactly what you're going to get unless you swatch the colors. This is why it's so important to swatch your colors. But if you were just picking up your pigment from the pans and putting it straight on paper based on the color names, you might end up being a little bit confused and maybe disappointed. And Paul Rubens paints are definitely worth the quality and the expense. You know, they're very well loved by artists everywhere, and I can see why. I mean, they're so gorgeous. I'm definitely looking forward to making art with these, and they're, you know, glitter. And there's that little girl inside of me that's very excited to see things that are shiny and play with them. That is the reason that I bought this set. Hello, friends. It's nice and early in the morning. I'm going to attempt to do this little art project before I have to start work for the day because it's Friday. It's currently like 7 a.m. If you recall from my last video, I had given you a preview of this page here, which I have put down. I bordered it off with some tape, and I put down a layer of black India ink so that I can do a painting on a black surface with the metallic colors. I thought that would be a really cool idea. The experiment that I wanted to do, I wanted to complete on a piece of black watercolor paper. Now, I don't own any black watercolor paper, so this will have to do for right now. Alright, so the images that I've chosen for this project include a picture of this person here. I loved this picture for so many reasons. I love the different types of colors that are throughout, from the hair to the earrings. I love the backlight and the forelight on her hair. Oh, can you even see that because of the reflection of my phone recording it? So yeah, you can just see that there's a lot of different types of colors and tones to work with. I thought that was a really cool picture. It's a lovely image, and I thought it would give me a good opportunity to use several of the colors and see what kind of effects we can get. And then, since I'm feeling kind of cheeky, I decided to also throw in some pictures of some betta fish that I found on the internet. So I'm going to start with the portrait. I began sketching it in last night, and I'm using a yellow watercolor pencil to sketch it in, which comes with some complications because when I make a mistake, there's no erasing it. I have to wash it away with water, and because of that, I had to come back this morning because when I did it last night, the paper was just too wet and didn't have the opportunity to dry, and it's not perfect. It's a lot easier, I think, to sketch with watercolor pencil on canvas, but on watercolor paper, even this watercolor paper, which you guys are probably catching on by now, that is not my favorite, it's still too soft. You know what I mean? Like, so you require kind of a harder surface to make those sketch lines. And plus I have a layer of India ink down, so that's gonna complicate things. Now, one thing I want to do is I'm gonna put my swatches next to me here so that I have some kind of key card to see what the final product will look like. The colors as they show up on the card should show up the same on this piece of paper here, because they obviously look different in the pans than they will on the final sheet of paper. Oh gosh, how do I make room for this? Stand by. Let's do it sideways. All right, I've got some water, I brought out my brushes, and I'm just gonna dive right in. So the first thing that I wanna do, because I think it looks really cool, is I'm gonna choose a red for the backlight of her hair. I'm gonna just try to copy it directly the way that it is in the picture. The next color that I'm probably gonna choose is the blue, which is what's highlighting the color of her hair sort of in the foreground. And that is actually more of a cool light. So we're gonna have to choose like a blue or a silvery blue, something of that nature. Oh my god, it's so sparkly. That's so cool. Watching the pigment, like the sparkles from, I guess, the mica that's in these pigments swirl around on a piece of paper, oh, so deeply satisfying. Before I get to the skin tones of this person and trying to figure out the lights and the shadows of that, I want to work on the more obvious parts of this picture, so the lips, the eyelids, the earrings, etc. Let's try to find some browns that will look good. Now, my fear is that we're not going to be able to get like the correct kind of brown, or she might end up looking a little bit strange, only because skin is not glittery and it's not mica based, so we need to be a little bit careful with how we apply our shadows. I kind of want to find one that will be a really good color for the highest highlights on the skin. And remember that I'm just experimenting here. I really have no idea what I'm doing. This is tricky. This is unlike anything I've ever done in watercolor before. I love a challenge though, so let's just keep going and see how far we can get. It's not looking too bad. On camera especially. I think because I'm looking at it so up close, I might not be getting the right impression of the final product. Alright, I'm gonna start working on these betta fish that I drew in. Okay, this was a really cool experiment. I'm very pleased with both the portrait and the fish. I think that they both turned into a success. That's really cool. I had my doubts, but you know, I have my doubts about everything. Let's try to redefine some of these eyebrows here. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like, what a lovely picture that I've created today using only metallic watercolors. Now, this isn't exactly what I purchased this set for. I think my intentions were a little bit more specific to, like, adding pops of, like, highlight to ordinary watercolor pieces, but now that I have given it a proper test run, I mean, shoot, I'll do this again. I'm really excited about it now. Do you like the painting Mama did? Oh, I think I got kitty cat approval. Oh, you sweetie. Pixel likes it, so I think that means that it's good. I did want to give you an up close and personal look at it though, because it's important to me that you guys get to see the process of me painting these things. However, because of the nature of these paints and the fact that they're so sparkly, the angle where I was shooting from overhead of my desk didn't quite get to capture the brilliance and the beauty of these metallic paints. And if you give it a good tilt, you can see some really nice sparkles. Like, just check that out. That's so pretty, and it looks good in different ways, coming from different angles. I'm in particular very proud of the way that the betta fish came out. I think that there's a simplicity to them, and for once I actually completed a loose painting of something that satisfies me in the end. The end product looks really good to me. Now, once again, I think I had the same issue that I had when I did the White Nights watercolor paintings, where I tried to do too complicated a picture in landscape mode. If I had done it in portrait this way, the portrait could have been a lot bigger of this person, and I think it would have turned out a little bit more detailed and a little bit better. But as it happens, you know, I don't think that there's anything wrong with this. It's just a little bit, like, unrefined, a little bit, like, there's a loss of detail for sure. I think I could have gotten that a little bit better if the figure had been bigger in this space, but I did want to, like, throw those fish in there. I thought it was a really cool compositional choice, and it gave me an opportunity to play with more colors in the metallic set. And then there you go. You can see, like, all the different spots of color, the way the light picks them up. Oh, it's so pretty. This was a really fun project today that I'm glad that I finished. There's some cat hair on my paper. I also took the opportunity to erase some of the pencil lines that I had initially used to sketch in. They didn't quite show up as well on the black paper as the watercolor pencil, but I managed to get most of them off, and this is the final product. I think it turned out so pretty. Give it one last turn for good measure. Ooh. I could do that forever. Okay. So this has been fun. I hope that you've had a good time. I know I've had a good time. I feel really good about getting this watercolor set because it was an extravagant purchase for sure. But now that I feel more comfortable with the idea of using it in an entire piece of watercolor art as opposed to just using it sparingly to jazz up and add a little bit of sparkle to ordinary watercolor pieces, I think that this gives me a wide variety of opportunities for me to use it, and that, you know, satisfies my artistic heart. So in conclusion, the Paul Rubens Metallic Watercolors. 10 out of 10, will definitely use again. Very worthy purchase, and I have so many colors to work with, it's pretty amazing. Wow, my pupils are enormous in these glasses. How did I not notice? I have these big cartoonish eyes. I feel like a nutty professor. All right, it's time for me to go. I love you all. I will see you next time. Until we meet again. Ciao, everybody. Stay fabulous.